Hey there, it's Ross coming to you from Lake Somerville here in Texas. I wanted to get outside today and do something a little bit different and talk about how moving into a van from 2016 to 2018 really changed my life trajectory and where I was at that time before living in a van and where I am today. And it's not to tell you that it was a panacea and my life is so easy now, but I believe that it put me on the right path, and so I wanted to talk about that. And hopefully the wind noise won't be too loud on the microphone. But July 10th 2016, I left Houston in my newly converted cargo van. I had worked on it for a year and a half prior to that. I headed north to Arkansas to visit an old professor from college, and then I headed west to through Oklahoma to New Mexico, stayed in New Mexico about a month, went and visited some family in Arizona, and then ended up in Los Angeles. I had kind of a plan when I left home. I had filmed the conversion of my cargo van, and that was to be my income along with some retirement savings. It was my attempt at launching my business and working for myself, and it was rough there, but I started to get some clients. I started to make some sales of my online course, and I had some online publications share my story and started to send me some customers, and the customers started requesting installation assistance. And so I had some installation jobs in Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, California. And at some point I traveled over to Naples, Florida for another student there, and I traveled up to Des Moines, Iowa and worked on a ProMaster for another student. And during this time I started to get experience in what I do today. So going back a step, I want to talk about why I left. I had worked in Houston, graduating architecture school in 2007. I got a job in 2008, and I quickly got laid off during the recession, January of 2009. So within a year of getting my first job out of college, I got laid off, and I really see it as a blessing now because it showed me that the jobs were not secure. And even though it was a difficult economic time for the architecture firm where I worked, I realized that my income could be cut off at any time, very early in my career. And that affected me. And combined with the entrepreneurial activities I had had as a kid, I knew that you could present a product or a service to a customer and, make a sale. And that went all the way back to mowing people's lawns as a kid. And so I wasn't scared of sales, and that was kind of brewing in the background, but I was still trying to get a job. So I went through the recession, worked at Home Depot as the hardware guy, and eventually got back to a job doing security for U.S. embassies. And this job was mostly in the office using my AutoCAD skills. That's why they hired me. But I would occasionally be deployed to U.S. embassies and consulates around the world where we would install their alarm systems, which sounded, super top secret and super cool. And I did get to travel to 6 countries around the world. I'll go ahead and list them. It was Peru, Brazil, Lithuania, Indonesia, and Turkey. I think that's 6. But that was really neat. But the reality was I spent most of my time in the office, and on my final trip, I had already been building my van and filming my online course. But I came back to the office, and the boss, my supervisor, was really stressed out because there had been no one there to do AutoCAD, and he didn't do AutoCAD, and our drawing sets had gotten behind because I was deployed to Turkey. What ended up being just a 2-week job that got cut short had set them back in the office. And I came back and I was trying to be helpful. And I told him that I was going to do everything I could to get us back on track. And I thought that sounded helpful. But he took it as he took it as an offense that he couldn't handle things without me there. And so he kind of put his thumb on me and said a few things that he shouldn't have said. And I was kind of had one foot out the door already. I had my online course coming together and I had my van coming together. And so a month later, I resigned from that job and I went full time into filming my online course. And I may have quit too early, dipped into my retirement savings too much. But one way or another, I think some of us that are meant to found our own companies, we make our way out, and sometimes it's not super clean. Sometimes you get out and you learn along the way. So that was kind of the backstory. And I also wanted to leave Houston. I had been in Houston since college, and I really wanted to. It's getting really windy right now. Hopefully the audio is coming through. But I wanted to break out of Houston, and after college I never really did. I got a job downtown, and so I had jobs a lot of the time that were good enough. I had my health insurance, I had a good salary. It was kind of a mediocre existence that was just good enough to keep me there. But I had this feeling like my life was passing me by and I was generating all of these regrets. And so combined with going ahead and starting towards having my own company, and then my boss kind of putting his thumb on me and, you know, treating me like an underling, it just kind of shoved me out the door. And I'm really thankful for those early experiences, because I traveled around in the van and I built different vans for my students. And the more vans I built, the easier it was to get hired by more people, the greater portfolio of work I had. And by 2018, I was a little bit tired of traveling around constantly. The final job I did in Florida of that year really kind of frustrated me, and the client and I, you know, we kind of butt heads. And I had some other clients out there that were phenomenal, but this particular client was a difficult job. And I wanted to have a home base again, so I got an apartment in 2018, and then I ended up flying around in 2019. I had enough of a portfolio. I flew around the United States to Seattle, twice to Detroit, twice to Seattle, twice to Detroit, and once to Indianapolis. So I would fly out every other month, and I would do, at that time, lithium power systems were kind of new on the market. And so I did all lithium electrical systems in 2019. And by that time, my course was 4 years old, my cargo van conversion course. It was starting to age a little bit, and some of the equipment was dated that I had used in the course. And I started a new course on just electrical systems, just mobile electrical systems. And from 2019 to 2021, I filmed that course, and I eventually got completely off the road. I turned down 6 or 7 installation requests, and I wanted to just sell my online courses. And the online course sales had dipped enough, and my marketing efforts on those had dipped enough that it wasn't enough, and I ended up having to go back and get a job. And I ended up delivering packages for Amazon. And it's funny, when you go out by yourself, I guess my critics, maybe some family members or people that knew me, they're kind of waiting for you to fail, because they need to know that they're stuck in some job that they hate, and they need to know that they made the right choice, and that's reality, and they really needed to stay. So anyway, some people really remembered that I spent a year delivering packages for Amazon, and that was, to them, that was the proof they needed that, you know, you better keep your job. But my business had become all installations, and when I just turned off the faucet on that, I turned off the faucet on most of my income. So I got those jobs, and I got the job at Amazon, and I continued to film my electrical systems course, which is still being filmed to this day. Quite frankly, you're always needing to update with the online courses, and that's something that I found out over time. But eventually Amazon sent me into a van shop 3 times, and I had actually applied to this van shop at the same time as Amazon, and the van shop the owner didn't call me back, and he just kind of let it drop, and we played phone tag a little bit, but he didn't end up hiring me. Well, a year later, Amazon sent me into that van shop 3 times because they ordered a lot of Amazon parts for the vans they were building. And so I finally, I took off my sunglasses that day and I said, hey, I applied here a year ago and you ghosted me, or you didn't call me back. And he said, oh man, he said, we really need an electrical guy. Our electrical guy, left. Can you send me your portfolio? So I ended up working for the van shop for a year, learned a whole lot. And so in the beginning, my very first full build was in California, so I had to travel. A friend of mine to this day, Alex, and I had to travel maybe 2,000 miles. And some of the stuff we did on that early van, I said, it was a Mercedes Sprinter, and I said, I'm not quite sure how to do this. I had a massive amount of woodworking background, but some of the other aspects I was still figuring out, because van construction, it's like building a little house. You have plumbing, electrical, insulation, cabinetry. You have all these different trades that you're doing. And he was very patient, and I was charging $20 an hour at that time, which it's pretty low for van conversions. And we just kind of worked through it, and I built my skill set. But by the end, at the van shop, I had a whole portfolio of work, and so I learned a lot at the van shop. We had kind of a values misalignment. I'm very particular in how I do things. We didn't agree on our set of values. So I moved on. My electrical course had begun to sell, and that's the Van Power Method Masterclass. And I started to make sales while I was at work with the van shop. And so eventually I decided to quit, and the irony was that I sold my van that I had since 2015, and I had converted. I sold that to get the equity out of it so that I could quit the van shop and go full-time teaching electrical systems. So that is a little bit of my origin story, and I will say, this is what I tell people with a job: there is no easy path. I see people putting up with work that doesn't suit them. People get depressed on Sunday night when they have to go back to work. Sometimes you do have workplaces that are toxic. People are stabbing you in the back. They don't want you to excel. Maybe there's one promotion and there's 5 people that want it, and you're all kind of competing for this promotion. As somebody that was a child that made sales, selling lawn services, I sold things to my classmates at school. It's not a big deal. You can offer things for sale. Marketing is just letting people know what you have available, and sales is just understanding the needs of others and showing them how you can help them and how what you have can change their life. So marketing and sales is really the linchpin that allows you to work for yourself. And it has not been easy, but I feel like I'm in control of my schedule. I'm in control of my income. I'm in control of my life. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And the truth is I would have sat in that job in Houston working on the U.S. Embassy drawings, and I was just kind of dying inside because I spent most of my year in that office with no window, drawing AutoCAD on the computer. And the bosses kind of treated me like a junior recruit. I was a little bit younger at that time. And I just wasn't meeting my potential, and it was kind of killing me. I knew that I needed to make a change. And so the van really was the vehicle, literally and figuratively, that got me out of my old life and set me on a new path and allowed me to align my design skills from architecture school with some of my maybe blue collar auto mechanics that I had done as a you know, in high school and college, fixing my own car. And I have to say, combining the blue collar and white collar skills can be very powerful, especially in the United States where there's a lack of tradespeople. We're sending everybody to college, which, you know, I went to college, but there's a lack of high quality tradespeople. So there are a lot of opportunities out there. And I would say if you feel like a square peg in a round hole, you know, take notice of that and don't try to bury it and push those feelings down, because sometimes you can align yourself with what you really want to do and customers that appreciate what you do. And it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to have. I'm not saying it's an easy path, but it has been. I have peace of mind knowing that I'm on the right path, that I do work that I'm suited for, that I really enjoy. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So that's my origin story. Thanks for listening. Now, if you want help with your electrical system for your van or RV, I have a document that you may be interested in called the Ultimate Van Power Cheat Sheet. It's got a discussion of the 3 major charging sources for vans and RVs, which are solar, shore, and alternator power. And it's going to talk about how they each have strengths, but they each have weaknesses as well. But combined, they are going to give you a holistic power strategy that's going to make sure you're covered no matter where you go out on the road. There's also a discussion about different battery chemistries and the strengths and weaknesses of those. That's going to help you narrow in on which battery type is right for you. And then lastly, there is a really cool diagram that's going to show your entire power system with the charging sources at the top, how that power feeds its way to your battery bank, and how that power gets distributed to your end devices, such as your microwave or your cell phone. So to get your own copy of the Ultimate Van Power Cheat Sheet, just click that link below or go to rosslukman.com/vanpower. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.